No. All right, Richard. Thanks, we haven't heard from you in a while. We appreciate it. Good to hear your voice.
Nice talking to all of you.
Okay, coming up, Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin talks to Jim Cramer as the Fed announces more unprecedented actions to support the economy. And the futures basically reversed a 500-point loss and are now up over 500. We will recap that big move right after the break. Stay with us as we head to break. Take a look at oil prices. WTI is coming off its worst week in nearly 30 years, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Squawk Box. The Fed announcing a big expansion of its lending programs happening just within the last hour. Steve Leisman and Mike Santoli are following that news and a very big market reaction. I'll get over to you, Steve, first. Steve.
Yeah, this is one of the first times, I think, Andrew, that the Federal Reserve has announced something and the market has actually gone up. I think other programs by the Fed have been an indication of the idea that there's really bad news out there. And now it looks like the Federal Reserve is in a place right now where it's essentially addressing a lot of the issues that are out there. They talked about announcing soon a Main Street lending facility. They talked about a $300 billion program here in order to lend to corporates and purchase corporate bonds, municipal bonds, all sorts of things. As somebody, I think, said to Becky earlier in the half hour here, the Fed is all in with possibility of doing even more, but really an aggressive program, an historic program, for the first time really going where it had not gone in the financial crisis. And of course, maybe the biggest news here, they're going to do as much as needed when it comes to purchasing treasuries and purchasing mortgage-backed securities. So really a program here that is infinite in terms of the amount it will buy in order to try to set the economy and set markets right, which have been under severe stress and severe strain over the past several weeks.
Okay, Steve. Mike? Where is Mike? Is he still there? What's your forecast?
I'm here.
Are we going to hang on to? Give me just your best guess. Does this add to the gains, or do we just come back to reality that the virus is still here, regardless of
I think best guess for a day is that we should be able to hang on to some gains. Just because, by the way, that 4% loss on Friday was just a weird little slouch into the weekend. So you're just kind of getting some of that back. I mean, there's no real margin in trying to predict the day-to-day. But I think the key point right here is what the stock market's been contending with is not just this massive collapse in the real economy, but the disarray in financial markets, in the sense that loss of control was the big outsized risk that equity markets just couldn't really get a grasp on. And so I think this does, in terms of the Fed absorbing a lot of this paper that doesn't have a home, a lot of redemptions have been kind of orphaning a lot of fixed income assets. If you just look at, the corporate bond, the high grade corporate bond ETF's up like 7% or something like this after the announcement. It was up modestly before that. That was the big fear, which was that while we put the economy on hold, a lot of stuff's going to break along the way. Right. And this at least reduces the extreme risk that more stuff will break along the way.
All right, Mike. Thanks. Okay, let's go. A massive funding package to combat the impact of the coronavirus failed a key procedural vote in the Senate last night. A Democrat said the bill did too much to bail out companies and not enough to help workers. Join us now, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy. Leader McCarthy, I want you just work with me. Pretend you're a registered independent right now. Just pretend you're a registered independent. I want I don't think you can prove to me that the Democrats, would you really say this is all about them playing politics when they're delaying a bill for the people that they constantly profess that they're the ones that they want to help? They constantly talk about helping people. You're saying that they voted against this just on a political level? See, I'm saying that they must have some real concerns. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. What about you?
Well, think about what this vote is. It's a Senate cloture vote just to move forward. This isn't a vote on the bill. You got 30 more hours. This is an ability to communicate, to actually work through whatever differences.
What do you attribute it to? Seriously, then? They're playing politics at a time when the coronavirus is ravaging first of all, ravaging our people and the economy?
Think about how this bill was created. Yeah. It was bottom-up, bipartisan, bicameral. Democrat Senate members, along with Republican senators, and then the House gave their ideas, actually crafted it by different sections of what committees you worked on and built it bottom-up. Then yesterday, I sat in a meeting of 4 leaders. And the 2 Democrat leaders were upset that this wasn't crafted by the leadership. Now take this of what happened just a couple weeks ago inside the House, where the Speaker wrote a bill. It had problems. We sat and worked it out. And late into the night, when we brought that bill to the floor, it did not have the text of the bill exactly as what we agreed to. You know what I did? I moved the bill forward and voted for it along with the majority of all the Republicans on a handshake that we would correct that on Monday, because we thought it was too important for the nation, that we should show that we can work together, that we will get beyond partisanship and we will get productive. Yesterday, what I watched was not a moment in time to sit back. This is critical. People are going to be laid off today based upon what the Democrats are doing. This is a moment in time. What you have inside there, I just watched your last interview. If you're worried about people paying their rent, you know what this provides people who are laid off? They actually get a check from the government. You know what else it does for small businesses? It gives them the liquidity to stay up and running, even though they don't have money coming in. And in there, it will be a grant if you keep people employed and you keep paying your rent. And to those larger companies out there, that airlines and others and hotels that are about to collapse that employ thousands of people, we would provide them the resources that they could take, that they could borrow the money, have the liquidity, and hopefully we do this correctly, get through these 90 days, and we're up and having a hockey stick recovery. That is what we're trying to achieve here. And when I sat in that meeting, Chuck Schumer said there's only 2 small things that is a difference to where we need to go. Then they should have voted for cloture, moving it forward and keep communicating. I took a handshake with the Speaker in agreement that I'm going to pass a law with not the things in it that I agreed to, but we're going to fix it in the future for the good of this country. I think this is a moment of a time that we put people before politics, and this is not a place to play politics.
Hey, Leader, I agree that we can't play politics right now, and we have to find solutions, and that's all we can do at this point. If you can, try to make the case, if you can, to the viewers who are on the other side of this, who do have questions about bailing out shareholders of airlines and hotel companies and the like, and why that matters, if you believe it does. And also this issue, and we talked to Pat Toomey about it earlier, but I know it's an issue that on the Democratic side there are concerns about, which is disclosure and the ability of the Treasury to distribute that money without the public knowing for a period of time.
Okay, remember the time and when we're doing this in real time. What we did is we learned from the financial crisis that we're just not providing people with money, just giving it to you. What we're providing is a guarantee and a backstop that you can go borrow the money at a lower interest rate. And so we're doing, but a small business is treated much different. If a small business is, and we're saying you've got to keep your employees on, and also you've got to keep paying your rent. It helps in the financial markets to stay afloat, that we don't create a new problem and run on the banks. If you keep employees there, then that's a grant. On the smaller businesses, we're going to help you guarantee, get the liquidity and move forward. You can't do a buyback, and you know what? Your CEOs, they can't get a big boost in their paycheck either. And people are agreeing to that. And you know why the money is going forward? So they can keep their employees, so they're not laid off. The other thing this bill does for unemployment insurance, we don't make people wait another 7 days. We pick that up. And on the federal end, we add another $600. So they'll pay their rent and go forward. But the worst case scenario is that somebody gets laid off and they have to go to unemployment insurance. Wouldn't it be smart as a nation, and if you're really thinking of the individual, not of the CEO, wouldn't it be smart to keep that employee hired? So let's give them the liquidity. Let's allow them to get through these 90 days. And let's say, keep that person on. There's other incentives in there. If you keep them on, maybe the federal government could pick up a small share of that. It's better that a person stays working than a person gets laid off. That's what we're trying to achieve. But right now, in every single boardroom across America, may it be a kitchen table of a small business, right, they're deciding whether to lay somebody off. So while Chuck Schumer sits back there and says he wants the leaders to decide, people are going to be laid off.
Leader, I don't disagree with you. I'm just asking about the discretion issue specifically that the Treasury has over the money that's distributed and the disclosure issues, and specifically also the shareholder issue, which is to say that the airlines are asking not just for loans, but as you know, they're asking for grants, and whether the grants are ultimately necessary or if the whole goal is just to keep people employed, whether the government effectively could nationalize the airlines or do something similar that they did with General Motors, put it through bankruptcy, keep the airlines operating, but the shareholders don't benefit. I don't know what the right answer is, but I'm asking you to try to make the case based on the support you have for this bill.
Well, right now, we've got a big chunk of money that provides just for loans. What the airlines is looking at, can it be a mix of both? There's also a tax incentive. What we could do is pick up a share of the employee's payment if the company's paying for it. These are all different ideas. But what I do know, if you voted for cloture, you would have 30 more hours before you actually had a decision to vote on the bill. Wouldn't it be better to move forward with cloture, continue the negotiations? I was sitting in the room with Secretary Mnuchin, with Schumer. They were very close. They could keep talking that whole time. Wouldn't that be a better scenario than to say no right now? Keep the process moving. We're being very productive. And remember how this first started created. Democrat senators, Republican senators, and on the House they brought ideas to. They sat as task force by the section of the committee you worked on, and it was bottom up, bicameral, and bipartisan. And at this moment in time, it's just the leader saying, no more, you can't go forward. We're not that far apart. It's not an easy decision.
I hear you, Leader. I'm just asking. Leader, I hear what you're saying. Speak to the disclosure issue. The American people will not have full disclosure about where their tax dollars are going. Explain why you believe that is a good thing.
I don't believe that's a good thing. What I do believe a good thing is vote for closure as we work through this. We believe in transparency, and we're working on getting it crafted correctly. Give us the next 30 hours, work with us just as we've been working before, and get it right. To stop the whole train is wrong. Keep it moving so we can have that vote, because every day that you delay, more people are laid off. We both believe in transparency. We both believe that this money cannot be used used to go into some CEO's pocket. We both believe that it cannot be used for a buyback of stock. The only reason we're giving you liquidity is to keep an employee on the job. And every day that you delay that, somebody makes a decision to lay somebody else off. So your decision right now is not about transparency, because we all agree on transparency. What the decision is whether you want to get the credit or not. I want to keep somebody employed. I want to keep America working, and I want to keep us healthy, because the other resources that go into here go to hospitals, go to the need of the states to be able to provide. But it's not the idea of I'm going to bail out some state's pension of something that didn't deal with coronavirus. Those are the issues that are getting brought up by the other side, and that is wrong. Let's focus on the problem at hand, and let's solve it.
I want to solve it, too, but my just final question, Leader, from me, and I know Joe and Becky have questions for you, but are you planning, if this gets past cloture, are you planning on trying to revoke the provision that gives the Treasury the discretion it was going to have ultimately in this current bill, and the disclosure requirement, which is to say that during the 6-month period that every bailout or would be disclosed effectively to the public in real time?
Look, we can find common ground on this. I sat in the room. I listened to Secretary Mnuchin and said, let's see where we can come together on this. We want to be able to give flexibility that people can act, but we also want transparency. And I believe both sides want that. Why would you vote no on cloture now instead of keep working through it? You have another vote to vote on the bill. And you know what? When you're going to vote on the bill, you're going to see the language. So keep the process working so we all can see the language and have the vote. That is what's critical at this time. That is why the decision by Chuck Schumer will harm people. That is not the decision that really those Democrat senators that are sitting in the room that had it bipartisan, bicameral, bottom up, they thought they were working on something that could keep moving forward. It really came to that I watched the other leaders upset that we didn't write this just by the leadership. Well, that's the worst way to write a bill. Let the committees of expertise write it and let them continue to work forward. What they needed to do, because of the Senate rules, because you need 60, and every day we go, some other senator gets sick, it makes it even more difficult. What you really need to is let the process work. They stopped to the point of where they were, and they could keep crafting for the next 30 hours. That is normally where you find the small differences, where you find the solutions. Look, I was willing on a handshake to vote for something that did not have the language that I agreed to, on the idea that on Monday we would correct it, because I thought it was too important to the American public, too important to the small business, too important that other people would have been laid off. I want them to keep their jobs. Government is telling them to shut down, and every day another state goes further. I do not think it's a moment in time that I care about somebody's personal ambition more than about the country itself. And that is where we are. And a vote of no on cloture is exactly saying that.
Well, we'll see how long this is politically palatable to delay
it's
this.
Not.
I can't imagine it's very long. But what's next? What's the actual process? When will it go forward? In your view?
Well, it has to go forward today. The idea that the Speaker of the House saying that the House would craft a bill, it's only the Speaker and I that are here for the House of Representatives. We cannot craft a bill. You're going to bring the committees back. You're going to start working. Every moment you delay is in more harm to this economy and to our health. Remember what this vote is. It's a simple cloture vote. All it says is we're going to start the process on moving forward with the bill. And how was the bill written? It wasn't Mitch McConnell writing the bill or just the leadership. It was bottom up, bipartisan, and bicameral. I wish I had that opportunity in the House when they wrote their bill. But you know what? I think I would put this country before my own personal ambitions. I wish the leadership in the Senate would do the same on the Democratic side.
Becky?
Just some comments coming out from Treasury Secretary Mnuchin right now saying that all small business leaders are going to have the necessary liquidity. He's urging them not to let employees go. Leader McCarthy, when he says liquidity, does that mean they'll get loans, or does that mean those loans will be forgiven if they keep their employees on? What's your take, and what do you think? How do you think that works out?
For small business, and this is different, 500 employees or fewer, if you keep your employees on, it will be forgiven. And so this is what is being held up. We know how many thousands of small businesses out there. I used to be one of them. You know the critical decision you're trying to make because you have no revenue coming in. You know, you just interviewed people with real estate. Are they going to pay their rent and others? This would give them the liquidity to pay their rent, pay their employees. And what does that mean when you're paying your employee? They're making their house payment. They're making their rent payment. They're being able to buy their groceries together. It keeps the economy together as we go through this virus crisis. And what would happen is we could have a hockey stick coming out from this. But every day that's delayed, people have to make those hard decisions. They're scared. They're wondering about how much capital they have. If you're small business, you get treated a little different. It could be a grant. If you're a larger business, we're going to give you a guarantee. So we're going to give you that liquidity. We're going to give you good terms on the idea that you're going to keep your employees. And the one thing I would tell to the American public right now, don't make that decision on laying somebody off. We will get through this. Hopefully that someone will come to their senses on the Democratic side and let the cloture start moving forward so you can see that. This bill was crafted in bipartisanship. This is where we're going to end up. I don't know what anybody else is ever going to tell you, but this is where we'll end up with what this bill looks like today with very small changes. Because I believe at the end of the day, we will come together. It's unfortunate that we had to have this delay.
Very good. Leader McCarthy, thanks. We appreciate it. And we'll be watching. Thank you.